Hello and welcome back to Film Frenzy. This is part 2, so you haven't watched the first part, go and check that out now, otherwise none of this will make any sense.
Yep, so we were challenged with making a horror film in just 12 hours using a piano as a prop and the keyword of technology somehow.
Yep, it was pretty difficult, but without further ado, here's the world premiere of The Chords of Death.
So there we go. The Chords of Death, first Film Frenzy film done.
Yeah.
So how did you find the overall process, making a film in 12 hours?
Yeah, obviously definitely difficult.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't an easy challenge to try and make a film in 12 hours. Obviously very rushed.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally think we did quite well with splitting our time.
Yeah.
Obviously every single section could have done with more time. We definitely could have written it better. We could have definitely spent longer shooting it and more time in post. But I felt the fact that we did spend so little time writing it so we could focus on shooting and post was definitely a good decision, because if anything, we needed even more time in post-production.
We needed much more time. I think that's the weird bit about it. You think the filming is kind of the main section, but really you want to be done with like halfway point the filming is finished.
When we had 5 hours left after we were finished, we thought we were in a really good place.
Yeah.
And then you get to the post-production, there is so much to do. You've just got to go through all the footage, even get the footage off the SD cards, which was an issue.
A little bit of time.
Yeah, we had some problems there. But, and then actually then going through just even cutting down all the takes you want.
Yep.
The actual edit was pretty quick. Once we had all things together, cutting it into a picture was fine.
Definitely. I think when we wrote it as well, it was we wrote it pretty quick, right? Within like an hour and a half, I think it was.
Like really quick.
But yet we were kind of changing it as we were filming, which is always to be expected.
Definitely.
But I think because we were filming it out of order, it kind of made things a little bit more confusing. Like there were moments where we were kind of like, hang on a minute, is this right? Should we be doing this? Is there a problem here? And we kind of had to like rethink it.
Especially because there were so many scenes going in and out of that same room. We were just like, hold on, so which one is this?
Exactly.
What level of scared are you meant to be at?
That was really hard to act.
Like, are you running in? Are you creeping in? Like, keeping that in your mind when you haven't filmed the stuff in between. Because that was a decision we made early on, whether we film location by location or chronologically,
which I think was still the right decision to make, because lugging all the equipment around from room to room would have just been a pain. Like,
it was nice to just be able to go okay, this room is done, that's done, and that was the main bulk of the film. We did also right to start in the room with the piano in first, because that's where the majority of the film happens, so we could get that out of the way.
If anything, it was the technology that I felt that we left out.
Yeah,
definitely more so.
I definitely agree.
Of the
because there were original ideas we had to try and include that more. There was stuff we were going to say where other technology in his house also starts to turn against him, and like you were saying that the piano should be the ringleader of all of the other technology in his house, but we simply just didn't have time to both write or shoot all of that stuff. So that's another thing where the 12 hours was so limiting that we had other ideas, we just weren't able to actually execute them.
Yeah, we had to cut them out basically to make time quicker.
One of the things I think came across weakest in the film was the actual piano itself. We didn't have time to mix it properly so it sounded ambiently in the space, in the world of the film.
Yes.
So I think it can be confusing as to whether he is actually hearing that piano or whether it's part of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which to a degree works in part of that psychological aspect.
It was all in his mind kind of thing.
But I definitely think at the start at least it should have been mixed to sound like it was coming from a different room, even just panned or EQ'd differently.
Just slightly, just to give it, the feel of more, it was in the real world. Thus, he's hearing a noise and he's going to explore it. Otherwise, you're just a bit confused at why he's getting up out of bed.
I think that's a huge example of when we just needed more time. With the music itself, I basically ran the film through once and played some piano over it, and then I had like 20 minutes to make it actually hit the exact cues, and I just had to accept whatever piano I had at the time. And so we didn't even come close to being able to then sound mix that properly.
Of course,
And so sound was like last couple of minutes and just like trying to do as much as I could. I was glad we managed to get it in the film for the amount of time we had. The fact that we were able to also write music and do any kind of sound mix was good, but just as a film I think that's one of the parts that comes across.
I think so, but it was quite important, the fact that it had a piano in it, that's obviously a musical instrument, and the fact that we were playing on the fact that this thing makes a noise is very integral to the story of the film. Like we had to do it. It had to be done.
We did leave it worryingly late to put the piano in when it's such an important aspect of it. It seemed a bit daunting to have to write music for a film on the fly. You get one take and just whatever you play, that's in the film.
That's the nature of making a 12-hour film. And again, I think we did okay considering.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was also quite happy with the DIY aspect of things that we did, like the door scene where we opened that. I was pretty happy with how that turned out, having to quickly rig that up as a special effect. As well as the manual as well, making the manual. We've got it. Got it right here, the AI piano manual. Considering we just knocked this up in like 10 minutes.
It surprisingly works. Like, obviously it's not real. But I don't know whether it's good that it's a comedy beat almost in a horror film. So. Like, it definitely plays as a comedy beat when we're trying to make a horror. Obviously, the whole thing's stupid. Being haunted by a piano is a stupid concept. It's not meant to be scary.
The manual as well is a massive slap in the face in terms of exposition, because we have the line. We don't know if people could actually see it properly, but to turn off evil mode, press the red button. That's like the moment of...
Definitely.
Oh, this is how I beat this monster.
That was another thing that with the editing and shooting it a bit better, we were aware in the editing that we were not sure if people had time to read that line or not, but simply having shot it, we just didn't hold on it long enough, and it wasn't something You know, we would have shot.
We had to.
Yeah.
At the point in the edit, we had to include that because it was the only thing that made sense, even a slight amount of sense.
And this is the AI piano was definitely our way of trying to crowbar more technology into it. Like,
a little bit.
It was like we always knew it was because the piano already is a technology device. You know, it's taking piano and turning it into technological form. But then we just wanted to push it a bit further, and this is the easiest and quickest way we could find to do it. Really.
I think so, but yeah, definitely focusing more on technology. I would have liked having that stronger feel of that. As well as the whole day to night thing, that was fairly DIY, made on the fly. Like, horror film needs to be at night, really. I mean, it doesn't, of course, but it helps.
Yeah, that was definitely, for me at least, the trickiest aspect of it. I mean, if you look at the original shots in the film, it wasn't even close to looking like night. Yeah. We had the curtains drawn and the blinds closed, but there was so much ambient light coming through.
It was such a nice day.
Yeah, and so we did so much hard work to try and colour it afterwards. And I think with the amount of time we had, we did well to turn it into looking relatively like night.
I think so. If you compare the two, it's like day and night.
It is like day and night, yeah, funny. But it was definitely something that you'd spend way longer on, and you'd film it when it wasn't so bright outside.
Yeah.
And we don't know much about lighting, so trying to light it so it looked like it was more ambient moonlight was quite difficult.
Just the fact for me of, this scene, we're going to make it darker, so let's turn some lights on. It just seems like...
Yeah, it's because like, it was so harshly lit from the outside that it was so obviously day that we kind of, at least in my head, and I think it kind of worked, if we lit everything to be more flatly lit...
Yeah.
Because at night you don't really have strong lights coming through. I thought if everything was flatly lit, then we should be able to tone everything down and add put some blue tint on it. And I think it worked to a degree.
For the most part, I think we nailed it.
Yeah.
So we have kind of touched on it already, but again, I was quite happy with the horror tropes that we managed to kind of get in there. The sidewardsy camera, and like the peering around the door and like the creaking through, seeing through the gap in the thing, like all of those kind of things. It was a lot of fun to do, to on the fly think, let's try and horror this up a little bit.
There was definitely some nice shots in there. The one of you, coming through the door, the one where you first hear the sort of vocoder voice thing, and it sort of turns around that hello as it sort of creeps and sort of begins to turn. There was definitely some of that in there, which is nice. I think we could have definitely done more. Yeah. It's something that we were simply just trying to get all of the shots so that narratively made sense.
Yes.
And occasionally we would be like, let's try and make this a bit horror-y. With something like a shot list or when you've gone through the film properly, we could have definitely come up with more.
Yeah.
But there are definitely points within it that I think we really hit those sort of horror-y looks.
It screams horror.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah. Another thing I would have liked to have time to do was like just little bits of visual effects, like maybe lights on the piano or something, like lighting up when he's talking.
Okay.
I think that's something that would have helped because it does look very inanimate.
It does. That would have helped with the technology side of it as well, seeing bleepy red lights or red flashy lights coming through.
I think that would have been nice, but it's just something that we didn't even occur to me at the time whilst doing it. Yeah. Because we were so busy doing other things.
Yeah, it was very much a last, like in the back of your mind, that was in there, if anything. We didn't have time for it. So
So generally, what would you feel you learned from trying to make this film?
I would say that, again, the timing, you want to try and make sure that you're writing it in an hour, maybe 2 hours, but you have a solid plan that you're pretty happy with by then. And that's not just in terms of script, that's in terms of like what shots you want to try and get in there if possible, and be thinking about the prop and the keyword from the very get-go. And the theme, I guess, the whole theme of the film. So that you can give yourself enough time to shoot, but enough time in the edit as well. You kind of want to split that 50-50. So
I think it would definitely depend on the type of film you're making as well. Like, horror's a pretty basic idea, and so we were lucky enough to get, I think, horror's our first one where it's like quite basic to write, so the writing could take up such little time. But then nailing the style took a bit more time, and then there was so much post-work needed. Definitely. That's kind of what I didn't factor in. Obviously, I knew post-production takes a lot of time on films, but I was mainly thinking in terms of just the actual edit itself and then maybe a little colour grade. The idea of having to write music, do a proper sound mix and have to not only colour grade but turn it from day to night.
Yeah,
that was just a whole element I didn't even consider before going into this 12 hours.
Definitely. And hey, the film was 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah, it was way longer
than
we originally planned.
We thought. I mean,
I thought it was what, 2.5
I think. So we were over, and even 2.5 minutes I felt was pushing the longer side of a thing to make. So maybe next time we need to get better at kind of condensing the good ideas down into a neater package.
Yeah, definitely. It's just that I think it's kind of hard to write anything of substance, really.
Yeah.
Sometimes, which doesn't, like, especially with this had to have a narrative progression. It had to have a build up to you getting scared and being more and more
Definitely.
like terrified by this thing, and it building up from being slightly sinister to horrifying. I guess. Not that it was horrifying, but you know what I mean. Like, it had to have this crescendo to it, and trying to do that in any less time would have been difficult. You definitely could have done it with more writing.
Potentially. I mean, I feel like we did misplan it in the sense of he runs out of the room twice and comes back to the room twice.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was one too many.
There is a weird
We
pacing
didn't need
to it,
that, yeah.
And also stuff like, the running down the stairs twice and then going back.
Yeah.
It feels like it doesn't make sense.
No, we should have probably seen that in the writing stage and squished them into one and just
also the bit when he goes and gets the manual. We were originally planning to have him have some sort of flashback to remembering the manual through either an advert or see him unpacking it or just come across it, but we just kind of were just like, we don't know how to do that. We don't have the time to shoot a commercial.
He just has to get it.
He just works out that he needs to get the manual and he runs down there. But I think in the flow of his emotions, it doesn't kind of work.
No.
But these are all things you just kind of notice afterwards, and even while shooting, we're a bit like, does this make sense?
Yeah, we had to keep double checking.
But we didn't have options to change it. We're just like, it might not, but we've got to shoot.
Not enough time. Get going.
Yeah, so just roll and see what happens with it. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely a really fun experience to do. I really loved making it, and I learned a lot. It's very, very stressful. There was points in which, because I was pretty confident when we first went in with the writing, I was like, yeah, I think we got this.
Yeah.
We got to the location, I was just like, nope, this is not going to work. We're trying to shoot this so it looks like night, trying to get enough camera angles in this relatively small room.
Yeah.
But then we just had to power through, and we ended up with something I think that's pretty possible.
Worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. That was the first Film Frenzy done. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. Very much appreciated. And hopefully we'll be doing another one of these soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, until then, goodbye.
See ya.